Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you for tuning in today to New Rulers Trade and Commerce broadcast, brought to you by yours truly, Sister Yatira. And I am excited to be back here again today to go over this topic, which is so important for this time that we are living in. And like I said, I'm just excited because the information that we have gotten from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is life changing, life giving teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And just by submitting to that truth, and applying it to our lives, we will surely be in a better place. So, to dialogue over these words and to share information that everyone may not have heard before or um, hasn't had the opportunity to study. Maybe you haven't heard, maybe you've heard of the minister, but just not all aspects or all studies. So again, thank you for joining us today. Last week, we went into the definitions of the words trade and commerce, as well as business. And one of the things that we lifted from the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, from a video clip that we actually played, is that he talks about business being warfare and what business means, right? So business is the activity of life, and trade and commerce is at the root of business. So the goal and the desire for each of these broadcasts is to continue to deepen our understanding and delve into the words that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has given us to go into deeper study. So when we talk about trade and commerce, when we talk about business, when we talk about the activity of life, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says that when you're a living organism, that you must be engaged in that which preserves and maintains your life, right? So some of the categories that he talked about were feeding. We all have to eat. We have a life that we are living, and in order to sustain the life that we have, we must nourish our bodies. We must eat, right? So we have to find a means to supply that, whether we are the farmers or whether we are going to a farmer's market, a store, some means of acquiring the food to eat. Next, he said sheltering. So, of course, we have to live somewhere. We have to be sheltered from the elements of the outside. Here now, storm is coming. So, living outside is not feasible for harsh conditions, harsh weather conditions, extreme cold temperatures or extremely hot temperatures. You need to have shelter. This is part of living, right? Procreating. If you have a mate and there's no ability for you all to reproduce yourselves, then when you die and when your mate dies, then that's where that life ends. We live on through our children, generations and generations to come. We are the seed of Abraham, who was thousands of years ago, right? But through his procreation, here we are. Okay, so when we're talking about, again, the activity of life, when we're talking about business, we as a people have to go more into understanding and finding our place in trade and commerce so that we can be as successful as the current rulers who are on their way out because they are out of time, in fact. But in order for us to step up as new rulers, we have to be equipped with the same knowledge that they have. This is why the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us to study the white man. And when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan lifted up the words of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he went further and highlighted the Jews. And again, when you study and when you listen to what he has brought to us, he has highlighted the Jews because they have reached the pinnacle of success on so many levels. And when he talks about their success levels, where the music industry is related, film, um, arts, science, the on the academic level, they reach the highest the highest levels, and they are a small number in comparison to the rest of the amount of people on the planet. Their percentage is low, but they make up, 24 and 30% of the statistics for these high rated academics and high levels of different things. So over the course of these weeks, we're going to go more into this book that you see, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, how Jews gain control of the Black American economy. Because at the root of their success, at the root of their business, at the root of their activity of life is trade and commerce. So, like I said, definitely stay tuned, definitely plug in weekly, as inshallah we will be back every week on Sunday to go into more about trade and commerce and to go more into studying this group of people who have started small with a group of them and have grown to be the rulers of the entire world. Okay, and we know that that is the actual fact of what the reality is, family. So bear with us here as we go into the next part. As we're moving along, I want us to go into what happens when we are robbed of the knowledge that these elite group of people have. Okay, what happens when we lose the science of business? What happens when this information is taken away from us? When you've been robbed of this knowledge, when you've been robbed of the activity of life, you become like a helpless child, needing someone to take care of you, right? Business is really warfare, but warfare with who? And this is something that I want us to keep at the forefront of our mind as we move through this broadcast, because we're going to go into who warfare is with and why is that so important for this time and day right now. Why is it relevant to you? Why is it relevant to me? Why is this a subject that seems like, oh, this, it doesn't relate to me because I'm into art, or I'm into cooking, so trade and commerce is not something that's for me. But we have to see the relevancy of how it relates to us specifically in this time, right? Okay, so the example Allah really put this on my mind earlier as I was thinking about today's broadcast, dealing with how do we look when we have been robbed from the knowledge of business, robbed of the science of it, because we know our enemy outright said they had no intentions of teaching us the science of business, the science of mating. You know what I mean? This is not what they intend to teach us at all. So think about it like this. Right now, today, over the course of the last couple of days, week or so, we have seen, in truth, we can take this back for decades. How do we respond as a group when we are upset, when we are fed up, when we want change, right? How do we act? How do we respond to this? We act a lot like an upset child, right? Maybe a teenager who's upset with their parents or fed up with how things are going in their house. So let's use this as an example and talk about a upset teenager living in the house of their tyrannical parents who are extremists, and this child, you're that teenager and you have to pay rent to your parents, and you have to pay this to them for this, that, and the third, but they restrict you on your ability to associate with your friends, to go out and do and move freely as they move freely, right? How does a child act? A child yells and screams and has a fit, might run up to their room and slam the door, might raise their voice, right? But doesn't make any actual change, just shows their disapproval, shows their dislike of the situation. But how do we handle it? As a people, we're out in the streets. We're upset. We're marching. We're protesting. We want our voices to be heard. We want to be heard of the things that we don't agree with, right? So what happens then in the Black community now? I don't know about you, but See, I wasn't a big if I had an attitude, I wasn't slamming any doors. Because I know that if I in our community, we're slamming doors, you better believe mom and dad is not too far behind from a door slam. That's not acceptable by what we're doing now in the streets. We're upset, rightfully so, right? But when we retaliate in the ways that we have, uh, as the children of Israel, stepmommy and stepdaddy, they're on our bumper, right? So even though we are upset and even though what's happening to us is unjust, this is not going to stop our oppressors from continuing to oppress us. So as a teenager, what do you have to do? What is it that you're going to have to do? You're going to have to leave. You're going to have to say, enough is enough. I'm not going to continue to pay you for the toilet paper that I'm getting. I'm not going to pay you for the food that I'm getting here in your home. I'm not going to pay you rent and then be treated like this. At some point, you have to say, enough is enough. I'm out of here. That's it. I'm packing up. I'm taking the economy that I bring to withstand this household, I'm taking it elsewhere. As difficult or as scary as it may seem, it's either that or stay. So why not take the chance to leave and see what kind of engagement and activity can you come in with? Who can you meet, right? Who are you going to be able to meet and be able to do business with? Where can you take your dollars to see about feasible housing, supplies that you need from another source, not just from the tyrant parent that you have known all your life, but other people have different upbringings. Everyone is not experiencing what you are experiencing. So don't you think it's a possibility that if you leave from your tyrannical parents' home, that you would be able to live a better life? That you could take the opportunity, the chance to see something different, right? So you don't want to go back there and continue to pay rent there and pay for your supplies there and continue to be treated. You got to take those funds and you got to move elsewhere. But this is why trade and commerce is so important. As you make your connections and you leave your parents' house, your step parents' house, and you leave, and then you start meeting new people. Oh, well, I have this resource, I have this connect for you. You can live here, and rent is just a fraction of what you were paying there, and the supplies that you need are still a fraction of what you was paying there. A better life awaits you. You just have to have enough to where you were willing to make that move, to move out on faith, right? So business is warfare. What are the tyrants and the rulers stopping us from doing? What are they stopping us from doing? See, we don't really have the connections where, my husband did a phenomenal stream this morning at 10 a.m. If you didn't hear it, I suggest that you go back and listen to it. As he went into the science of business, breaking down the word science, breaking down the word business, and going into what it is that we lack in understanding as Black businesses relate, as what real business is, right? So when we talk about real business, we as a people don't manufacture things. We don't manufacture things here. We are not owning land and growing what comes out of the land and taking what comes up out of the earth and taking it inside of a factory and turning it into plastic, turning it into the tubes for toothpaste, turning it into the brushes, turning it into jewelry. We're not doing these things. We are still at the whim of our oppressor. They have the connections, and then we go to them and say, well, can I get in on that, and can I get this to use? Sure, the ingredients, you may be in the kitchen, whipping up the face cream. You might make that, but even when you go into the ingredients for the face cream, you're not taking that and doing what you need to do that. And if you do have the plants to make your face cream, you're not producing the container that the cream goes into, right? So we're always going to be looking in that kind of state. We're always going to be looking for mommy and daddy to give us the things that we need. We're not engaged in real business. Why are we not really engaged in real business? I don't want to elongate this. This is, like I said, this is an exciting topic as we go into the understanding of these things, and we can really, make it longer. But to bring this to a close, as we will go into more next week, I really want us to think about why we don't do the things that we need to do that other people are doing. Why are we stopped? Why are we frozen in time? Right? So, student minister Brother Ishmael Muhammad today spoke beautifully on he talked about what we had as a people, and he highlighted how in the past, from 1863 until 1877, how we had built up our towns. We had built up, and he highlighted what we had done, right? But when the bombings came, and when these our towns and everything were destroyed, that was it. That killed the desire for us to build and have our own from the ground up. We don't mind having my own thing. I have my own store. I got my own thing, and it's just mine. It's not a communal thing. It's not a societal thing. It's not nation thing. It's just me and my own thing. And this is a mindset that is prevalent today because of the fear that the enemy has put into us. Right? This is from the fear that the enemy has put into us. So from 1863 till 1877, we had these things. We lost billions of dollars in investments, right? So how do we get up out of that? Right? How is that stopping the progress of today? Again, that fear is so important. It's so important for us to understand that the fear is really the only thing that's restricting us outside of the not knowing. But we don't even search for the knowledge because we are afraid. That's one of the most common things that we see on social media, and as we have these dialogues with other people, this is something that comes up. Well, why would we do this again? Why would we separate? Why would we separate? Because now we're just going to be in an area and they're just going to bomb us. They're just going to do that again. See, we have to understand what time it is. And God is on the scene today. Allah, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, is on the scene. And his right hand man, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, is alive, well, and in power. Make no mistake about it. Right? So these are the things that we have to keep in mind as we talk about the need to separate and understanding how we need to use trade and commerce. How do we get into trade and commerce? Because again, right now, it's not like we are taking things up from the earth and now I'm able to supply my own thing. And if I have an item that my brother or my sister needs, we can engage in trade and commerce on that level. No, because everything is still tied to the synagogue of Satan. Everything is still tied to the Federal Reserve System. Everything is still tied to that. So by me having a business, doing my own thing, I still got to pay taxes. You know what I mean? But we have to be able to look and study the white man. Always remember when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan highlights, after saying study the white man, he lifts the success of the Jews and looks at how they operate. Again, these upcoming weeks, we are going to go into depth with this book and go into see how they set up these trading posts, how they came and set up things so that they were able to gain ultimately the control, to have shops, to be little peddlers, and then work their way up to owning stores. And now they own and the things that are coming off of the out of the plantation, they're able to ship internationally to Europe, to the north, to the south, and having the control of the economy, right? So these are just things that we definitely have to realize, and how we are going to be able to rise above these current conditions, and how do we take trade and commerce to new heights, and how do we use them to benefit ourselves. And I will close with this topic of how we have to start thinking, how we can use the examples that we have had before us to understand what are our next steps. We cannot be so fearful that we think, oh, there's no way for us to do trade and commerce, or there's no way for us to unite and set up a trading post of our own because the enemy is going to stop us from doing what we need to do. God is calling us to do this in this time. See, what we have to realize is when we say that, oh, this is what they're going to do to us, that we remove God as being even present. We are saying, when we say these kind of things, we are saying that the white man and his power is the only power, and that no other power can stop him in what he wants to do. But we have scripture to help us to see what we can expect. Recall when Moses was instructed by Jehovah to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Pharaoh didn't want to let go. The children of Israel didn't want to go, right? The plagues had to come. Pharaoh had to say, go. And even after Pharaoh told him, go and take them, when he changed his mind, he decided he was going to come back and get them, right? And stop that. But Jehovah had other plans for Pharaoh and his army, right? And they were not able, even though Pharaoh decided he was going to change his mind and come after them, Jehovah had ultimate say in that situation. Do you and I not think that God is real? That he does not see our struggle here now? Do you think that he is not powerful? See, the only power that we have been familiar with is that of the white man. But trust and believe, he is not the power. Keep in mind that Satan had a conversation with Allah. Here in the Holy Quran, you read the conversation of Satan and Allah in chapter 15, the rock. And I'm just going to read a portion because Satan and Allah are having a conversation. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is Allah talking. He said, O Iblis, what is the reason that thou art not with those who make obeisance? He said, I am not going to make obeisance to a mortal whom thou hast created of sounding clay, of black mud fashioned into shape. He said, then go forth, for surely thou art driven away. And surely on thee is a curse till the day of judgment. He said, my Lord, respite me till the time when they are raised. Well, who is they? Who needs to be raised, right? He said, surely thou art of the respited ones, till the period of the time made known. So you can go in and read more. But my point is that, you see, Satan is at work for Allah. He had to ask Allah, listen, give me some time. Give me some time to go and make hell. I'm going to come after your righteous ones. I'm going to come after them. I'm going to come in a straight path. I'm going to come behind them. I'm going to come from the left and from the right. You know, he's going to try to take us all down with him. But this is the time. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been on the scene, raising us up by Allah's permission. So it is only when we accept the truth and act on it. See, if we're going to be fearful, well, we're going to die in that fear. If you're going to be too afraid to engage in real business, in the real activity of life, not just, oh, I got my own thing and I'm situated over here in the corner. My business is a dead end business. You come and you get toothpaste for me and that's it. That's it. You give me some dollars, I give you a toothpaste tube. That's it. This is not real trade and commerce. See, can you imagine a world outside of the realms of this system? The video that I shared out announcing this broadcast is one that we put up on our business page on YouTube, rather on Fard Money. And this is where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan directly says that the Federal Reserve is the synagogue of Satan. The synagogue of Satan is the Federal Reserve. So when we go in to look at what does that mean? Who are the Federal Reserve? Who are the international bankers? Not just who they are by name, right? But indeed, what kind of system did they set up that they have been able to gain control of the whole world? What kind of system did they have to set up to gain a complete monetary control? When gold was made illegal for the American citizens to have, where did we turn our gold into? We didn't turn our gold into, our own safe bank turned over to, just to our downtown bank that we was able to get 40 years later. We were told to turn in our gold to the Federal Reserve. See, these are things that we really have to think about. These are things that we really have to think about. What kind of system was set up, right? What kind of system was set up that the whole world is now inside of this hellish state, right? That we're not even able to do the type of business that would be freeing for us, right? So like I said, as I'm closing, I just wanted us to think about a world that there is no rent, right? Because as the synagogue of Satan has taken control of the monetary system, the printing of the dollar, right? So if they're holding as much gold as they want, but they're printing the dollars, the monopoly money. They're printing this paper that has lost 98% of its buying power. And so in order for us to get ahead, we think that we're going to get another job. I work 2 and 3 jobs, right? Not only do I work 2 and 3 jobs, but I'm putting in hella time, overtime, triple time. But I'm still not getting ahead, right? We have rent to pay. We have lights to pay, electricity, water. Hell, if you want cable, any kind of entertainment, these are things that you have to pay for. Don't get me into the scams of insurance, right? Car insurance, all these things, registration, things that you got to pay. Where are these dollars going? It's a whole system wrapped up into slavery, and everything that you do, you have to pay a tax. Because we're living in a world that has been geared to make our trade and commerce really null and void unless it's to the benefit of the beast. Think about Adam in the beginning, a gardener tilling the ground, right? Well, did he have rent? Where did it talk about him having to till the ground to make ends meet? Where did it talk about that? So when we can imagine a world outside of the scope and the box that Satan created, that the Federal Reserve created for the whole world to live in, what will that look like? You see, when we go back to what we had as a people in 1863, we built it up. Why? Because the skill set was there. I'm able to build, I'm able to do, I know the skills, I have it. So when I do this, you have your skill set, we work together to build our own. Right? So today, imagine this world. Imagine this world where you don't have rent. Why would I have to constantly pay? I have the money and the finances to buy outright the place that I'm going to live in. Okay, it's mine. This is a righteous world, right? And thinking into that kind of world where you don't have to pay a rent. You just live there. That's where you live. Sure, somebody is building it. Okay, so you pay them for building it. Trade and commerce on a small scale, just within a community. You build for me, I have gold, or I have something that's as valuable as you building my home. Trade and commerce, right? This is how these things will work. I make cars. All right, so I make cars, you make me a house. Right? So when we think about these things that we don't have, that we would not have to have, where everything that we're doing is being paid out to an enemy, being paid out to a beast, Allah, God gave us life. And then Satan made us pay a tax for the life that God gave to us. So how do you take this back? We have to be studious. We have to be educated. We have to be willing to submit. We have to be willing to submit. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I mean, he talks about it on plenty of occasions where it's in the Bible, you know, the learned, we think that because we have these degrees or we are certified in this field that, okay, now I don't need the education of, you know, someone like me. I don't have any degrees, you know, but I'm just a messenger. This is not even coming from me. This is not something that I knew about. Right? I got this information from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I'm only uplifting the words that he brought to us. Right? So again, in closing, I want us to just think about that for real this time. I want us to just think about the system that the synagogue of Satan, that the Federal Reserve put into place. Right? They own all the real estate. So that field is not a field of what's the word that I'm looking for? This is a field that belongs to them. Now we understand this does not say that we don't use it to help facilitate, you know, people finding places to stay. No, that's not the point of this. But what we have to keep at the forefront of our mind is how do we use a system designed against us for us? And that's what we in Fard Money are all about. The re-education and the upliftment and the proper teachings to our people to help us to understand what is going on, that we may set ourselves in heaven at once. And as what we broadcasted a couple of streams ago, my husband lifted up the quote or the saying that gold is the kryptonite to the dollar. Literally, the kryptonite crumbles it, obliterates it. So as we are engaging in business, trade, and commerce, we have to do this outside of the realms that they want us to do it in. They don't want us having gold, trading in that with one another, breaking free from their system of control, right? These are the things that we have to keep in the forefront of our minds, you know. And something in closing that Brother Ishmael said today, he highlighted the backing, that we will be backed by power, backed by a nation, backed and be independent. Well, family, the dollar is not backed by anything. The dollar is not strong. The dollar is weak. The dollar is nothing for us to build on, build with. Trade and commerce with the dollar is only further hurting us as the dollar continues to decline in buying power, is on its deathbed. Why continue to use that for our businesses? Why continue to use that for our businesses when the dollar is going down, but gold is going up? So if there's a way for us to use gold to make our purchases with one another, to strengthen our communities, something that we can use to engage in trade and commerce with our brothers and sisters in Africa, in Asia, wherever they may be. There are nations right now that do not want to deal with the dollar. They don't want it. But if they want to work with us, if they want to unite with us, what do we have to offer? So here in Fard Money, that's what we have to offer. Fard Money, independent money, God's money. In the beginning, when God created the earth, the gold was all up in the earth. The dollar wasn't here. That's man-made, right? So we have to be able and be willing to be open-minded to move towards the direction of freedom. This is these so-called Jews, they are the last group of people that we have to break free of, says the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because they got us in it from an economic standpoint. We see them, a lot of the what does the minister call them? The certain class of us who have these so-called relationships with them, right? They are only in a position to work with them really to the benefit of the Jews, but not for us, right? We don't have these relationships. The Jews are wealthy, so why are we still in the condition that we are in? When we go back to the time of Martin Luther King, when we look at their relationship with us, they know how to become economically strong. So why are they not showing us? Why do they guide us to just march and protest, but not show us how they got financially independent, how they gained control, right? So, like I said, we will definitely have more next week, God willing, inshallah. I definitely thank you all for joining us this evening as we go more into trade and commerce and how we as a people can literally change our stance, our condition overnight if we would just be willing to be uncomfortable for a minute and change the status quo. All business owners right now, all Black business owners right now, you can sign up your K Merchant account and be able to accept more means of payment. As a business owner, you should be looking for more ways to accept more, right? If you can accept crypto and turn that into your form of fiat currency that you choose, okay, fine. If you can accept gold, why would you not do it? Right? So we have to be willing to be uncomfortable, be willing to submit to something different, and understand first and foremost that the highest power of the land is not the white man, is not Satan, is not this system. This system is going down and it's on its way out. Right? So know that first and foremost that there is but one God and he is on the scene and he is almighty. Make no mistake about it, family. Okay, so thank you for tuning in to this week's broadcast of Trade and Commerce, the new rulers, the Trade and Commerce. We are on our way to the top. The wealth transfer is now. Take your rightful position. So we have the links that you see on the ticker that's going by. If you are interested in learning more, acquiring gold for yourself, for your family, securing yourself and your family, being in position to engage in trade and commerce with other countries, with your fellow people here inside of America, go to www.fardmoney.com and send a request for information. And one of our Fard Money representatives will get back to you ASAP to help you properly get set up and to move you to the next level. If you're a business owner and you want to be able to accept cash, gold, and crypto as a form of payment, do the same thing. Get with us. And if you are here seeing this broadcast on someone else's page, excuse me, I got hear a little baby in the background. If you see this broadcast from someone who introduced Karatbars to you, get back with the person that shared this information with you. Like I said, so that we can help us to move to the next level as the new rulers in a righteous way, engaging in trade and commerce. Thank you again. Assalamu alaikum. Until next time.